Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the MI podcast. If you're new to the MI podcast, in the MI podcast we discuss all things marketing and media. I'm Nikhil Kumar and I'm a marketing professional, and I started this podcast as a hobby because I like to discuss things with people who are in marketing media or something which could be like an intersection. So today's topic is quite interesting. It's something, like we always kind of discuss why people choose a certain brand or, are attracted to a certain campaign. So it's something I feel to do with marketing psychology. So it is, as marketers, we have to look at how people think, feel, and act towards purchasing decisions. So this is kind of a field of study as a marketer. If you kind of read up and kind of like study it, different kind of case studies, or also how that influence the mind is influenced. In terms of why or the marketing and media, you will be someone who will be two steps ahead than the other marketers. So I think it's quite not only important, but I think it's quite interesting. So to discuss this particular thing and this particular topic, I have with me Komal. So, hi Komal, how are
Hi
you?
Nikhil, I'm good. How are you?
So Komal, you are an aspiring psychologist, right?
Absolutely.
That's right. So awesome. To the audience, if you could just share something about yourself.
For sure. So I'm an aspiring psychologist. I'm Komal Jain. I'm currently pursuing my MSc Applied Psychology with a specialization in Business Organizational Psychology at NMIMS Mumbai. Well, my journey with psychology has been a little up and down. I started off as a pure science student, but psychology was something that I was always interested in. Understanding why people behave in the way they do, what is it that attracts us, what is it about social groups, what is it about businesses, and how does psychology play a role. And in my last 4 years of studying, I've understood that psychology is everywhere. Not just in a therapy room, it's in hospitals, it's in brands, it's in consumerism, it's absolutely everywhere. From whatever you can think of, it is psychology plays a role. Over the last couple of years, I've interned at a couple of places. I've been training under a psychologist to start my own practice after my master's is done next year. And yes, I'm extremely happy to be here to share my insights. And yeah, I
That's
think
it. So Komal, in terms of psychology as a career,
yeah.
what kind of influenced you to kind of like at least study it, and now you're kind of
Absolutely.
going to pursue it?
So it actually started off as just an interest that I just want to study psychology to understand what is it, because it wasn't as much as known when I was in school. Like I never heard anybody saying that, oh, I'm studying psychology, or oh, I'm a psychologist. But it just piqued my interest when it was a subject offered at school. I couldn't take it, unfortunately, because I was a science student and I was taking the other subjects. But after my 12th, I was like, why not? Let's explore what this is. I
But in
ended up.
terms of, I feel in the last 10 years, the discussion in the mainstream also about mental health
Absolutely.
is kind of now like youngsters who are going to pursue. I think it's something which is discussed
Absolutely,
like
it's
many.
increasing a lot these days. Perhaps I hadn't heard of it much because we were all in the science, commerce, arts, what are you going to take? And I was always like a physics and math student. So I barely looked at the other subjects, not even psychology for that matter, not even commerce for that matter. Right, but as soon as I heard about it, I was extremely interested. This is something that I was inclined towards even when I was in school, just talking to people, hearing them out, understanding, and just being a good listener. So I think those skills kind of also led me to the intention that, okay, this is something that I want to pursue. I started off with my bachelor's.
Was also like as a person,
Yeah,
like people perceive you as a good listener
yeah.
and someone who is not judging them. Was that something of feedback you got?
Absolutely. So judgment is a big thing that we discuss in
Yeah.
psychology also, and we train for it. See, it's a human tendency to judge anything and everything that is around us. But as psychologists, when we are in a professional space, we're taught to create a non-judgmental space, because if I know for a fact that the person sitting in front of me is going to judge me, why would I share something deeply personal to me? Why would I go to them for advice? Why would I go to them for support? Why would I
But
go?
that was something maybe naturally you had, wherein you want, because there are some people like that where
Yeah.
then you kind of open up more towards them.
Absolutely. So I think it's both. Because I believe, because it was my natural inclination towards this thing. I think also just studying and working on field with so many psychologists has helped me develop that as well. Also, I think just passion for the field, just knowing for the fact that one day I want to be there. I want to be somebody who can support people around me. I think that has also subconsciously perhaps built my skills towards it as well. So I think it's a mix of both. I don't believe that nobody can become a good listener. Anybody can. I think it just requires the right skills, the right way to become a good listener.
That's right. So in terms of, if you could share to the audience, like if you're looking at a career
Yeah.
in this, like within you, what are there things naturally which can make you a successful psychologist? Like say if you're pursuing a particular sport,
Yeah.
maybe you have that height for it,
Correct.
or you have that stamina or something.
Absolutely.
It's intrinsically in you, so you are. There's a high probability of you being successful at it.
Absolutely.
So in psychology, what would that be?
Personally, I believe passion is the topmost thing for me. Just passion for supporting people, passion for learning, because psychology is a field that is ever changing, ever changing. Like any other field, every other day you have a new client, you have a new case, you have some new regulations that have come up. It's so fast changing that you can't, no matter how many, you're done with your masters as well. You can't just say that, okay, I'm done with my formal education, now I don't need to study, I'll just work. Right? With psychology, that will not work out, because every single day there's something new that is coming. And under every field of psychology, be it you're a clinician who's doing assessments, be it you're a therapist who's just working individually, be it you're working at a corporate, you're doing trainings, workshops, there is something new that will come up every day. And the biggest thing in psychology is you're working with people, right? There's no tangible or the same thing that you're working with. It's people, and every person is different. That is something that's the first thing that we learn, right? That every person is different. Doesn't matter, let's say, suppose two people have been through the same thing, their reactions are not going to be the same. Their coping is not going to be the same. How are they perceiving the event that has happened is not going to be the same. So your approach cannot be the same either. Hence, learning, having that passion that, okay, I need to support. I'm here to support and understand the person sitting in front of me. Help them understand themselves better, I think plays a huge, huge role. And then apart from that, I think psychology also gives you a lot of space to explore your other interests. I'll pick up from what you said, like if you're interested in sports psychology is a very different field that's very upcoming. And I see so many aspiring sports psychologists and established sports psychologists as well, who themselves have been athletes. But mere interest and passion for psychology, they took up sports psychology and they're helping other athletes understand their performance, helping them with injury rehabilitation, making them the best athlete that they can be. So there's a lot of intersections where you can work along with psychology. People who love dance, there's dance movement therapy. People who love music, there's music therapy. There's so many modalities.
There can be an intersection with everything.
Absolutely.
Because it's like the behavior you are.
Absolutely, it's
studying.
everywhere. Like I said, like even if you take up media psychology plays such a huge role. Like if I as a person am interested in filmmaking, or I'm interested in what kind of shows, what kind of movies do people want to watch, there's such a huge psychological aspect.
Yeah.
Why do TV shows that we think, as objectively think that, oh, this is so not realistic, ये क्या दिखा रहे हैं हमें, right? But still, everybody is watching that. It's on trending #1, right? Why?
Yeah.
Why is that? There are so many great shows that we now call underrated. Why didn't they work out when they had to? Why are they working out now? There's such a huge psychology behind it. Let's take an example, like a lot of rom-com movies from the 2000s and 2010s. They're working out a lot these days. People are rewatching them. They're being re-released in the theaters because our generation resonates with that. That is something that it's very light-hearted, it's away from the kind of things that we see now. It's away from the kind of things that we are seeing on social media. That is something that we relate to, we enjoy watching. Hence, it's coming back. Back then, perhaps a movie which is very modern wouldn't have worked out. If you go 20 years back, movies like Kabhi
Is it
Khushi
also
Kabhi Gum.
the rom-com thing, like people, the love maybe in their life they don't have, so they want to view that.
So,
is that a part of it?
That is a complete different aspect.
Yeah.
It could be because we understand that people would seek something outside that they're not getting within or not in their close circle.
Like
that could be one
that's
aspect.
why that gets.
So that could be one aspect for sure, because we also call these certain movies our comfort movies, because when we watch them we get like good feelings. Right? Perhaps that is lacking, or perhaps that missing in my life. That could be one of the cases, but not all the time.
So what are the other things within that?
Well, personally, it's also something that, like I said when we were talking before, hustle culture is something that's coming up.
Relatability, I think.
Relatability is a great factor.
Something which
lightheartedness is a bigger factor, because if all day, let's say suppose I'm working Monday to Saturday, and on Sunday I just want to relax. I don't want to use my logic brain, or I don't want to think too much. I don't want to get into an analysis mode or work mode. I just watch something lighthearted, something funny that will just make me laugh, that will just let me be. The biggest thing about media when we watch it on a big screen is that you're there, you know that so many other people are watching it with you, or so many other people have watched it, and they're all relatable. There's some aspect of the movie that you'll be able to relate to, some aspect which will make you laugh. And I think a lot of people also seek that these days, that we just want to sit, have a good laugh, we just want to see the movie. There are also some people who enjoy analyzing the movies, right? So that's a fun element for them. So I think media really plays a different role. It's very individualistic to talk about singular people, but I think that's how you capture
media, it's like they say now, like if you can arouse and heighten emotions, then you be successful at it, and
absolutely
those can be positive or negative.
Absolutely.
So that in any case, it is a understanding of behavior.
It's an understanding of a behavior. So even when we talk about brands and marketing and how things are portrayed these days, it is all about the emotions, right? If someone were to sell something to me and they were just like that, these are the technical aspects of it, buy it.
USPs of the.
I wouldn't, right? Because I'm not able to relate. There's no evoking of emotions, or there's no evoking of that, okay, perhaps I need this, or perhaps this would make my life better. And the same thing if somebody just tells me, perhaps along with a story, that this is how this was created, and this is why we are building this. I would instantly be like, wow, that's such a powerful
story. Or like
story.
a use case which matches in your life.
Absolutely. Let's take an example. Like if you were to tell me that use the internet, I'd be like, fine. I'd perhaps remember it, not remember it. Maybe sometime I'd use it. I'm talking about a couple of years later when internet wasn't that famous. Right? These days we'll Google everything, we'll chat GPT everything. Google ran an ad campaign which had a lot of very powerful storytelling and very subtle marketing in terms of, I'll tell you one of the ad campaigns. It was about two older men, like grandfathers, one in India and one in Pakistan. Right? And they had been separate, they were best friends, but they got separated in the separation that happened. Now their grandchildren, because they had heard so many stories about it from their grandfathers, they just looked up on Google that, okay, what was this place? Who was this person? Any connection? And the 2 to 3 minute ad shows how beautifully that both of their grandchildren have gotten them together. They're meeting. And I think that was so powerful, because when I watched the ad for the first time, I was fully engrossed in wanting to know, okay, what is happening? Wanting to know.
This is a Google ad which you had.
Yes, absolutely. So Google India ran a campaign of multiple ads like this which use just storytelling and subtle marketing, that for absolutely anything and everything and absolutely any age of the person, they can use Google. And next time whenever I think of using Google, or whenever I think of, oh, I need something, I'd think of Google because I've seen something relatable to that. I've seen something that is etched into my memory because it evoked an emotion. If you just tell me that you use Google for everything for all ages, I'd forget it because it'd be more like a passing thought. It's more passing information. But if I've felt that,
in Google, like
absolutely,
their advertising started off with use cases, like how to use it. Now, maybe emotional aspects are being tapped more. And if you see the whole country, if the tier 2, 3 and even villages are getting net and Google, so how do you maybe, like that emotional aspect will come more because it's an emotional country.
Absolutely. So I feel that brands these days are also targeting specific communities in the way that they market or in the way they brand. So there could be specific ads or specific things that they're targeting towards a certain population. Now this is something new for me because I haven't traveled a lot, but I was recently in Gujarat and all the ads there, all the, the way of marketing there was in Gujarati and like very subtle phrases that most Gujaratis would use. And I was like, that instantly attracted me. That is something that I remember because it was like, okay, I'm in Gujarat, now it feels like home. So any brand, any way of marketing, any kind of media that makes you feel like you belong, it's for you, it's specifically targeting your community in a
But you
subtle
understand
way.
Gujarati in terms of then, or was it like, okay, it's just Gujarati?
So I understand very basic Gujarati,
Okay.
but my point was more about, I'm in Gujarat, anybody who's coming, let's say suppose somebody is coming back home after a lot of years, right, and they're Gujarati, they see those ads, they remember that ad better, right, rather than any other random ad which was in English or Hindi. They'd go home and talk about it. So word of mouth, I feel, is like the oldest marketing strategy that has been around for, I can't even imagine how many years, right? But these ads subtly will make you remember them so that you talk about it. So media is being used very smartly when it comes to all this. And
word of mouth marketing, obviously, it's happening naturally, but as marketers, we have to have strategy that word of mouth marketing increases.
Absolutely.
And to the right people you are.
Absolutely.
So those then become like brand advocates for us.
Correct.
And we kind of.
And that happens more easier and more efficiently when your brand is speaking for itself, when it's speaking about the values that it is standing for. Especially if you talk about bigger brands, especially clothing brands, a lot of environment, a lot of change in environment talks are happening right now about how the environment is being impacted. But when these brands genuinely talk about and be more vulnerable to the idea that this is how our clothes are being made, this is how much waste consumption is happening, this is how our waste is being managed, people would relate and people would appreciate that authenticity as well. That fine, and there are a lot of people who would stand for them, in support of them, that I use this brand because. So whatever comes after that because has to align with whatever values the company is standing for. So when I as a user can say that statement so confidently that I use XYZ brand because, it's almost like I feel like a part of the community. I feel like a part of the brand. If the brand is being imposed on me and if the brand is inviting me, there's a very big difference. It's a thin line, but it's a very big difference. Because when I start feeling like my values align with the brand's, I will speak for the brand. And that is how the word of mouth reaches the right places, reaches the right people. And just that really helps.
That's right. Yeah, that imposing and inviting also.
Absolutely.
Personally we feel when we're interacting with each other, that invite thing has a better impact on us than that.
Absolutely.
Because you don't feel, like where you're following instructions, like that's maybe a natural human thing that you don't want to.
Absolutely.
It should come like naturally.
And the subtlety comes in when, brands understand, media understands that we want to make the audience choose us. But that happens in two ways. One, I could just impose that we're giving this much discount, or this is what we're talking about. So like, listen to us. That listen to us and let's talk. Like, I hear you, I understand you. There's a very big difference. That is what is inviting and this is what is imposing. If I impose my brand on you, maybe it will last for a very short term. But then there will be a point where I feel like I'm not choosing to buy this. Just because it's being imposed on me, I'm using this. But when it's like I've connected to this is something that I really enjoy, or this is something that I'm remembering, then I would buy that. I would feel more invited to use it, or to use the service, to use the product, to watch the media, whatever it is, rather than just feeling like, okay, this is not my choice. And these days people want to have that control. People want to be in the frame of mind where they know that I have chosen to use this, or I have chosen to decide that I'm going to watch XYZ movie. So that plays a very huge role in how you're understanding your audience and what space are you giving them. Is it a space of choice where they know, where they feel like they're making a choice, but you know there's subtle marketing that pushes them to choose your product or your service, but are you putting them in a place where they're just there and you are just there and there's no connectivity? Absolutely.
That's right. An interesting thing like about psychology, like when you are kind of aspiring or when you become a psychologist, like can it be like yourself also you are over analyzing things and you know what is in the other person's mind or something? So can it be like for you also a little bit complex, it gets in your personal thing? That
absolutely. So that is something that I think we speak about a lot, especially mental health professionals, people in the field would talk about it a lot. But I think the difference comes in where you've realized and you've compartmentalized that I'm not in a professional space right now. And yes, people do think, I mean, my friends have asked me who are not in the field, they've asked me that when they're talking to me and suddenly they would be like, oh, are you analyzing me? Are you psychoanalyzing me? And I would be like, no, I'm really not, because I'm a friend there. And it's very important to understand that being in the mental health field, when we're in the work, we're very emotionally, we're very cognitively immersed and invested. So there's a lot of resources of our mind that have already been used in actually analyzing and actually understanding the patterns when somebody else is speaking. So I don't feel that a lot of professionals enjoy analyzing out of their work as well. Because then we just want to be, because it's a lot of overload on our head also. If I'm constantly just looking at people and I'm analyzing them, I wouldn't be able to think straight. Right? Another myth is,
people have that perception, what do you want to tell them?
Yeah, so people do have that perception.
That because you always then feel like she's super smart, she knows what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
That kind of
people
intimidation happens.
Absolutely, people would think that, but I think there are a lot of other ways to manage that as well. And the first one is, I think, just clarifying that this is not something that's happening. And I mean, it just has to be in a space where it's more comfortable. If anybody is talking to me, I will have to ensure that they're comfortable talking to me. Right? And this goes beyond just being a psychologist. It's anybody. If you just want to be a good friend, the friend has to be comfortable sharing things with you. Right? So that I think is just being human on how people talk to you. What is the relationship that you're sharing? What is the equation of the relationship that you're sharing? So I think that depends a lot. Another myth that people have is psychologists can read minds. Right, which almost aligns with the fact that, oh, are we analyzing you because we understand, perhaps we're reading between the lines.
Like a mentalist is someone who...
But psychologists don't read minds. I mean, it's more about just asking the right questions.
Is more of a former. It's not actually reading minds. It's like just taking cues and body language and then getting it. Nobody can read a mind.
Absolutely. And I think if anybody could read minds, it would be so much overload for them, because I don't think we realize that in a minute of a second, so many thoughts are in our minds. There are so many other things that are happening. I might be talking right now, but I might be thinking about something else. There's other 10 things that are happening in the back of my head. There are so many problems in my life that are perhaps being solved in the back of my head right now. So it's a lot of overload if somebody were to just read minds. So reading minds is something that doesn't happen. I think psychologists are more inclined towards asking the right questions to people and sitting in front of them to probe in the right ways so that they can share and they can understand what is it that they are feeling. It's more like leading and managing in those ways rather than imposing again. Psychologists would never impose their thoughts or their activities as well. Like all the processes that we do, they're very open-ended. They're structured, they're directive sometimes depending on what is it being done for. But they wouldn't ever be imposing that, listen, I think you're wrong, this is how it is. If you just feel like this, then your problems will be fine. That's not something that can be done.
If you're seeing obviously you develop certain abilities wherein like you have Jordan Peterson or Sadia Psychology, see, they all have obviously now into content and then they're like a brand for themselves. So they are taking certain aspects and then like what they have used in psychology and to the people about like for Jordan Peterson, people, guys who are maybe unemployed or like something relationship related and very specific things he tells about the behaviors or what you should do and how society perceives you and how you deal with that. And Sadia is more for the dating aspect for especially in men, understanding women. So they've taken that particular thing and then kind of they are talking. So I think you will have you develop certain abilities like that and then maybe you can...
Yeah, I think it's more skill building. Like any job would require, any profile would require certain skills. I think it's pretty much the same, but because psychology, like I said, it's much more about humans, delving deep into behaviors. Why do we behave a certain way? Why do we react in certain ways? How does the environment affect you? How do you affect your environment? There are a lot of things that we can explore and study in psychology, which again wraps up into the fact that we understand.
In terms of like for them, it would be the experience, obviously the study as well as clients. So something which then they kind of over a period of time take notes of and make a kind of a structure to it.
Correct. So a lot of pattern spotting. Absolutely, a lot of pattern spotting can happen. So if I've had like a couple of years of experience as a psychologist, I would understand what are the patterns and how are the patterns coming up, what is the solution, what is something that can be done to either break the pattern or continue the pattern depending on what the context is. But again, as psychologists, we also always have to have a little open space in understanding, because I think I mentioned this before that not every person would be the same. Patterns can be similar. People can be similar, but they'd never be the same. Their behaviors would never be the same. Something has to be different. The environment would be different. The situation would be different. The other factors impacting them would be different. The environment would be different. They themselves, their approach might be different. So that really impacts. So at an individual level, understanding psychology, understanding behavior is something that of course needs to be delved very deep into. But when it comes to brands and media targeting larger populations, I think pattern spotting, understanding what is the most relatable thing, what is something that will impact them, what is something that they'll remember us by, helps rather than, because if they were to focus on individual people, I think that would again fall into the line of imposition or sort of crossing in terms of, I think the subtle line stands where as a brand I can tell the people that I understand where you are coming from, or I hear you, I know what space you are in, and this is how I want to add value
like
into.
In marketing, they are thinking about personas, so you make a thing as per that age or city or the...
Correct, the demographics would matter,
so
right?
So then you kind of align
Absolutely, but if you were to come as a brand, if you were to come to me specifically and tell me that this is something about your life and this is how I want to add value, that's very scary for me, right? Because that's where I feel like you'd be imposing in my life, you'd be imposing too much into who I am. So the subtle line is where you understand who I am, but you understand me as a part of a community that I am. You understand me as perhaps a behavior that I have, perhaps a situation that I face. Something where there's a little larger demographic than just simply me as an individual. That's a line that we really need to understand.
Exactly. So, Komal, just briefly about the opportunities for
Yeah.
aspiring psychologists in the market today in terms of industries, what kind of job roles and
So psychologists, reiterating the fact that they're everywhere, we see psychologists, again, would depend on what your interest is. Of course, clinical psychology, counseling psychology, industrial organizational psychology, these three are the main ones that we usually hear and talk about. Clinical psychologists would usually do assessments, they'd understand disorders more, they'd understand normal behaviors, spectrum behaviors, all of these things more deeper, and analyzing and doing assessments for those. Counseling psychologists, there are multiple fields under counseling. There's career, there's child, there's teenagers, there's parents, there's I know some
so
people
all these
who
are like
simply working men.
self-employed and or you can be a part of
You can be self-employed. So if I am just running, if I'm just taking my own clients, I'd just be practicing as a psychologist in my own clinic.
yeah.
But you would see psychologists working in hospitals.
And that's
as
kind of
well.
difficult because you have to make a kind of a name for yourself to
Absolutely,
get that
absolutely.
amount of,
A little bit, yes, because then again, यहाँ पे also word of mouth is something that
Yeah.
one thing that practicing psychologists would face a little, what other professions could actually talk about, that oh, I have XYZ clients coming to me, these big people are coming to me. That is not something that you can do in psychology,
yeah, that's
right? You
It's-
can't display testimonials
it's,
with
uh,
faces or with names because we
Yeah.
have to be confidential.
Yeah.
The clients are coming to us with their trust, and these are ethics that we
Yes.
cannot cross boundaries of. But yeah, I think that it's a little, they need to take a little step further in building their own personal brand, or how are they marketing themselves as a
Yeah.
psychologist to get more clients. But of course, that's the business side of it.
Yeah.
There's so many other fields as well. There are forensic psychologists, there are criminal psychologists, sports psychologists, like I mentioned. A lot of
So
psychologists.
a lot of
are-
opportunities, job related are there. I'm
a
talking
lot
about
of
people
opportunities
who
are there.
obviously have taken up that career, but obviously you cannot
Yeah.
get into self-employed. That could be very risky initially.
Uh,
So you want to have that job
Abs-
experience.
Absolutely, but again, I would say that it depends on your interest. If I want to have a private practice, I think the best part would be
But
to
then
do
in
as
terms
much
of your
as
investment
experience.
has to be quite a lot, right? In that.
Investment, yes, again depends on how are you starting off.
Yeah.
Like if you're already coming from a rich experience of internships, if you're coming from a rich experience of supervision, the transitioning becomes a little easy because you as a person are more confident that I can take clients.
Yeah.
If you're unsure in that space, which most of us are, right, because we've just studied, it's almost like the person sitting in front of us, anything wrong that we say could impact their mental health in the negative way as well.
Mhm.
So it's a very, I think, a space where you really need to be more careful and more conscious about what is it that you're saying, what is it that you're doing. But I think it comes with practice because there are so many practicing psychologists out there taking sessions of their own. But I see a lot of psychologists also not just taking clients, but they're also doing other things. Like a lot of psychologists would be professors. A lot of psychologists would be doing corporate trainings as well because they come from that background of mental health. I see a lot of aspiring psychologists and psychologists also going into media in terms of, understanding, okay, what kind of actors do we need, what kind of storyline would really help, what emotional aspects should we include.
Yeah.
So there are a
Yeah,
lot of things that are there. There's Indian psychology as well, just understanding how the Vedas and all of this sort of align with what is the modern psychology that we're studying. There's so many aspects to psychology. Say suppose you work in a supermarket. Just understanding that why are these products kept here in the front row? Why are certain products kept at the counter where you're billing?
Yeah.
What colors are going to attract you? What kind of products, if put together, will make you buy more? All of this is psychology. So if you see people who study consumer psychology, people who study marketing psychology, people who study color psychology, they would be including a lot of these aspects into just placing a product in the supermarket as well. Why do we, when we go to a supermarket and we've bought all our stuff, we're just billing? Why do we feel like, oh, here's a chocolate, let me just buy it?
Yeah.
Oh, here's a bread. I'd probably need this anyway at home.
Okay.
Let me just buy it. So if the bread was, let's say, suppose placed somewhere else, I probably wouldn't have bought it
Yeah. Yeah.
without a second thought or without intention. That if it's not in my list, I'd probably not buy it. But things
Yeah.
that are certain things that are kept at the counter, certain things that are kept as soon as I enter or as soon as in the pathway that I'm going to billing, why would I just pick them? I'd be like, oh, fine, perhaps I'll need this. So that
That's
is
right.
something that's built.
That's right. This is like kind of interesting. Where obviously, these big brands, the stakes are very high. So
Absolutely.
they have to get into these details of like how the psychologists. I mean,
Yeah.
they would be hired where
Correct.
they have that whole
Absolutely.
pattern of behavior in terms of how to influence it for the decision.
Absolutely. I think it's very smart to do that.
That's right. That's right. So that is where I think within industry it can be in any industry
Absolutely.
where there is purchase involved, and
Absolutely.
like they say in B2C, it's majorly on emotions. Like the lower the value of the
Yeah.
thing in terms of monetary, the more emotional decision it is, right?
Absolutely.
Than logic.
Absolutely.
In like
it
B2B,
is.
they say it is more logic based because there are so many
There are more
like-
technical aspects
Yeah,
to
because
it.
and plus even that decision, so many people are
Yeah.
taking it based on the business. But in B2C, a low value product is just impulse and kind of
Absolutely.
like that kind of thing.
But I would say I'm not 100% sure about just B2B, but when you see investors
Yeah.
hearing out business pitches, hearing out investing pitches, they also focus quite a bit on the emotional aspect. Just understanding what is it the company values beyond the monetary aspect. That okay, this is something that they're building that I personally very much resonate with. So I want to invest. This is a cause that they're working for. This is a problem that they're working for. Like we see so many episodes on Shark Tank, right, where the sharks would say this, that technical aspects we might have to work on a little bit, but I really resonate with what you're doing. That is why I want to invest.
Yeah.
That is why I want to get on board. So I
Your
think when you're
story is
building
really
your brand,
appealing to-
yeah, when you're building your brand, I think the story and why are you doing, the why matters so much. The what, how, everything else can be figured, of course, with a good business acumen that can be figured, but I think the why matters so much because actually, why am I doing this? Why am I starting this? Why should people listen to me? If I'm not able to, build that up, I think it becomes very difficult for anybody to relate with you, for anybody to understand, okay, this is what she's doing and this is why perhaps I'd like to be a part of it.
Yes. So Komal, when you look at consumer psychology, so is this actually taught in when you're pursuing the psychology degree?
I think so. Some colleges do have this as a subject. If you see abroad, there are specialization courses as well. Like you'll see a MA, MSc in consumer psychology. In India, I personally haven't seen any different course for this. Like at least not a master's course. Perhaps there'll be certifications.
But in your curriculum, it's
In curriculum at NMRS, we do have it. Like
Okay.
we have media psychology as a different subject. We have consumer marketing psychology as a different subject. So we are taught a lot. I think also because NMRS course is applied psychology, so we go through a lot of different domains under psychology. But your usual clinical MSc or MA in clinical psychology wouldn't touch upon these topics because their specialization is very different.
that's it. So this year, if we take, what are if you say about certain psychological shifts in terms of consumer behavior
Yeah.
and that anything you would like to share?
I think two major aspects that we've already covered is emotions and storytelling. 100% impacts a lot, and you'll see a lot of brands actually shifting to the storytelling format as well. Even on the billboards and everything, they'll have copywriters, little lines that just hit home, or that will just make you remember them. But I think one major aspect that's shifting is the use of AI, right? Because we see a lot of AI marketing, we see a lot of bots actually doing the
But then there's a
ads.
perception that AI is not with emotions
Absolutely.
that-
So I
that
think
is-
the line that needs to be understood there it's of course not bad to use AI. We have to work along with technology to succeed
Yeah.
in whatever it is that we're doing. But I think brands need to understand if the AI is enhancing their brand personality and in what ways, and what parts of them using AI is decreasing that. Like if I were to, let's say, suppose write a customer complaint email, or I was just supposed to call a brand and talk about some issue that I'm facing. As a person, I don't think I would be immediately comfortable talking to just an AI, right? So you will see toll-free numbers having more directives that, okay, if you want to do this, press this button. If you want to do this, press this button. And if there are certain specific answers, I'm okay if the AI is just giving me instructions. But if there's an actual issue that I need to talk about, the AI would be a little more structured, a little more robotic in terms of, let's say, suppose I'm talking a mix of English and Hindi. Perhaps that would be misunderstood. There I actually need a human sitting and just understanding what is it that I'm coming from, what level of understanding and knowledge also I'm coming from. Like perhaps
So
if I
AI
understand
basically,
technology.
like within marketing, if I could say that, it like say if someone is a little bit weaker in English, it kind of get you at a high level because you can improve that copy which you write.
Absolutely.
So that is like one aspect. Plus, it kind of gives you, when there's a block that happens, that it immediately shows some option in front of you. So kind of gets the ball rolling.
Absolutely. So I think that's a great way to use.
I think honestly, it's like increasing the standard. Both quality and quantity can
Absolutely. I think that is 100% there. So there's no denying that AI should completely be scraped off and not used. But I think just using AI to enhance the user experience, to enhance your customer base, is something that needs to be really, understood and learnt and skilled upon. Like we see AI being used a lot for writing. Writing vision statements, mission statements. So then as a founder or as the CEO, I think humanizing that, it's okay to get a basis out of AI, but humanizing that, adding your values to that, and then perhaps asking an AI to reframe it or make it sound a little more impactful, I think that's absolutely okay. But that human involvement has to be there. It cannot 100% just be AI, especially when you're building a voice for your brand. Because a voice that a human would give is a voice that humans would relate to. Right? If I just hear an AI voice, it would, after a point, it starts sounding more repetitive. It starts sounding mundane. It starts sounding familiar. Then what's different that I'm hearing from your brand than what I'm hearing from something else?
But AI, do you feel like when you look at the banner ads and all, or those is something, it kind of helps in that, where it will be better to use an AI compared to long format things?
Absolutely. So if you're asking me about like the copywriting, I think it's great to use AI for that, because of course you can ask the AI to make it more creative, to have certain words
as per certain segments. Mass level I can kind of do.
Absolutely. So I think using AI there is great, but again, just finalizing, I think, should be done by a human who has the expertise in this. Because they'd understand the voice of the humans that you want to target. Even if I tell an AI that this is my demographic and this is exactly how I want it, AI is coming from a base that is given to it by humans, right? And those humans necessarily might not be the demographic that we are looking at. But if I have studied about that demographic, I've been a part of that demographic, I would still somewhere understand it better than an AI would. So then towards the end, when it comes to finalizing, I think then humanizing, just having a human be a part of it, is very important. Use AI to its most extent. It uses less time, it wastes our energy and resources less, 100%, but still that humanizing, especially when building a brand, I think absolutely necessary.
That's right. Any other, you see which, where you see in terms of the consumer behavior or something which has been observed as a trend in related behavior?
I think brands these days, especially looking from a consumer point of view, they want to build trust. If I build trust as a brand, I would have customers who stay. I as a customer might experiment with multiple brands, but I will only go back and buy the brand that has
So
built
that's with
trust.
the authentic voice.
That has built trust.
Yeah.
And there are multiple factors
Mm.
that I think we've touched upon a few. That going from listen to me to let's talk. The brand is talking to me, right? Not invading my privacy or imposing things on me, but inviting me. Factors like how well can I relate to the values that this company stands for? What is it that's important to me? As a consumer, if all I care about is what am I getting for cheap, but it's still good for using, I would perhaps just focus on that bit. I wouldn't focus on the other bits as much. But if I, as a person, I'm open to choices and I'm okay if I have to spend a little more for better quality, perhaps for something that matches my values, that is what I would focus on. But then brands building that according to their demographic becomes very important. If the brand also wants to just focus on giving the best quality at the cheapest rate, then that audience will 100% be attracted to this. But that clarity in what is it that I am giving you as a brand and what is it that you need as a customer is very important. If I make my brands very complicated, if I'm trying to put my foot in all 5 different boats, कि no, मुझे तो ये भी चाहिए, I want this also, I want that also, I stand for 10 different values, how would I relate to the brand?
Yeah.
Right? Because then it's like you're everywhere, you're for everybody. Then how am I feeling invited? How am I feeling like it's for me? How am I feeling that I resonate with this? So I think that clarity in terms of what the brand is showing that they are and how genuine and authentic that is, I think builds trust more than anything.
That's right. Wanting to feel special is something, I mean, in terms of a behavior that has been enhanced because
Absolutely.
even brands with AI have got better personalized communication.
Absolutely.
So it's resonating. It's like when you are on any social media, say the messages that you get, like say as a corporate professional, you'll have a lot of people
Absolutely.
pitching to you. So the person who stands out has kind of studied behavior, something has done something different. Right?
Absolutely.
So that is,
I think that plays a major role, what you mentioned. That clarity is important, but personalization is equally important when it comes to people. Like you'd see a lot of brands who are giving you
and taken in
personalized
effort,
items.
like they appreciate the taken in the effort.
Absolutely. You feel like, okay, I'm paying no matter what the amount, but I'm paying so that it can be made for me.
Yeah.
So brands, when they work out with, having specialized, customized products where your name can be written, where perhaps an image that you wanted it can be done, people feel like, okay, this is being made for me, right? So that really helps. Plus another thing that I think is working out great for brands these days is building communities. So rather than one step of it, of course, is building your identity, building your brand, but then building a community where people actually can come together and be like, yeah, we share values of this company, where we understand where this company comes from and we support it. We support the brand because we stand for what it stands. So a lot of communities where, all these big brands will have their own events where they're just sharing that, like Zomaland, I think, is one of the very known. So Zomato, sure, it's a brand, you know that you'd order food. But anytime that Zomaland is near, I would instantly think of Zomato for food rather than anything else.
Yeah.
I would instantly, when I go to Zomaland, I'd be posting about it and all of that. And I'd just be
That's something to do with the events like sponsorships, wherein you're creating that mind space.
Sponsorships, absolutely, and also communities. Like I know a couple of smaller brands that would have, like I recently saw a brand page that is more about fitness, and they have a fitness app and they have fitness bars and all, and they're just doing these weekend runs for runners, because then they're talking to the athletes, they're talking to the runners that this brand is for you. If I were to go out with a fitness brand and just say that it's for everybody at the start, more generalized population, it would perhaps take a little more time for me to actually touch upon everybody. But if I just come up and I'm like, this is just for the runners, all the runners instantly would be like, yeah, we were a part of this community.
I think they host certain run clubs or
absolutely, and there are so many fitness brands that are doing this. Yeah, so many fitness brands that do this because you're building a community of runners.
Yeah.
Right? Even if we see Nike ads, if you see their advertisements, they will make you feel like you're an athlete. They will never make you feel like buy us because we build quality shoes. They'll be like, you deserve the best because you are a great runner.
Yeah.
And we can help you with that. So acting was a support, showing that okay, you're an athlete, we want to help you out with that, really works out because the advertisements connect with you. They're like, oh, even next time when I go to a run, I also want to feel like the person in the ad is feeling. So it's much more about how they're making you feel about yourself also.
That's right. So Komal, in terms of, if briefly you can take us, what are like the major psychological triggers in terms of, in terms of you're creating an emotional connection?
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest things is clarity in what is the brand speaking about, what is the brand standing for. Another big thing I feel, apart from emotions and storytelling as well, it's giving subtle cues. Let me share an ad campaign with you again. Lifebuoy did this at Mahakumbh, where everybody who was at Mahakumbh, of course, they eat there as well, right? So all the rotis that they were making, they put a stamp on it called Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya. So now as soon as everybody is sitting for their food and I'm just serving that roti, it has Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya. Now the thing that they're doing is they're reminding me that I need to wash my hands before I eat, right? Which is a notion that all of us are taught when we are kids. But perhaps we forget sometimes, we might not always wash our hands. But now imagine in a day I'm eating this thrice. I'm seeing this Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya thrice in the day.
Yeah.
Even if I'm just there for 2 days, the third day when I go back home, I'll remember that. Anytime that I see a roti, I'd be like, oh, Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya.
That's right.
And that's so subtly told to you that haath dhoya kya, that's the core part, but Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya. So instantly when I'm in a supermarket, when I'm back at home and I'm like, oh yeah, we need to start washing hands or we need to make this a habit, which we do every time that we wash our hands before we eat, I'd instantly think of Lifebuoy. Yeah. I wouldn't think of any other brand. There might be like 10 other brands. I might not even check their prices. Because in my head, the cue when I see a soap and when I'm thinking of eating is Lifebuoy. So that I think was a great campaign, like so beautifully played out. Because everybody after the day one was just asking each other also. That's also building a community, right? Like there are hundreds of people sitting together and all of them are just thinking about Lifebuoy se haath dhoya kya.
That's it. In that particular setting, like in a lot of these events, I think many brands are kind of doing that, like wherein it could be like a guerrilla marketing also.
Absolutely.
Something at a place where you're, I mean, like you mentioned, washing hands and all. So yeah, having a higher impact because maybe also the audience at that time is more captive, like they are
absolutely
to this thing. So it's, I mean, if you see, what other things you feel like these triggers or something, anything else you want to share?
I think cues 100% play a major role. Apart from that, I think it's again just about what is your brand voice? What am I remembering you by? Like
the FOMO thing, for example. That like when associated with Gen Z, like that thing. And
fear of missing out.
Yeah, but is it actually work on ground? Does that actually, or it's like just so much we just hear about it in media?
No, I think FOMO is 100% created. Like recently Coldplay concert, right? Everybody just wanted to be there, regardless of them listening to it, not listening to it. But another psychological aspect that plays a role here is the sense of urgency that the brand creates, the sense of urgency that marketing creates. Last 2 seats left, last 5 seats left. I think that plays a major role, but again being authentic and genuine there because people are smart, right? People will understand that, oh, since the last 10 days your last 2 seats are left, matlab either you're lying to us or people are not buying, so then why would we? Right, that sense of urgency has to be paired with the fact that people want this.
E-commerce websites, that's all manipulated actually, it's not the...
Absolutely, so like 50% discount only for the next 5 minutes. That creates a sense of urgency. And the FOMO thing that you talked about, like for Coldplay, I remember...
When you purchase that and the next day you see it, you feel cheated
Absolutely. That, okay, yesterday was 50% off, today it's 60% off. I should have just bought it today.
Then it's negative publicity, right? Like you
Absolutely.
feel
Absolutely. So that's something that brands really need to be careful about.
Yeah.
Like for Coldplay, I remember there was a rumor when Coldplay tickets were going to come out, a couple of months before the tickets were out, that this is Coldplay's last concert. So FOMO plays such a huge role here, because as individuals who've grown up listening to Coldplay or who just want to follow the trend also, I'm talking to everybody, we felt like, okay, oh God, I'm never going to get this experience ever again in my life.
Yeah.
So I need to buy the ticket no matter how costly it is, no matter how many people are going to be there. I need to be there. Absolutely. I don't know who Coldplay is, but I have to be there. So that sense of FOMO, that sense of urgency, because we knew like Coldplay tickets were going to get sold out really quickly. But even like Book My Show, that's what they did, right? The first day tickets they sold out in a couple of minutes. Now after they announced that okay, there's a second show. So again people were like onto it. But if I already knew there's going to be like more shows, I perhaps wouldn't go in the first one, or I'm not sure how that would work out. But I think that was a very good example of creating like FOMO.
Komal, also do you feel the brands, they stereotype Gen Z? So it's like they want instant gratification and this FOMO and all these things. So do you feel that is also very shallow kind of thing, wherein they are just major segment, like they are not getting into details. It's like where you say lazy marketing.
Correct.
So do you think that's happening?
I think again it's a very grey area of being smart and being shallow.
Yeah.
If I know for a fact that this is what my audience wants and I'm giving it to them, that's a smart move. But if I'm just stereotyping them into, oh, this is what they always want, this is what all of them want, then perhaps
it's about the stereotype.
then perhaps it's more shallow in terms of
like say you say mention an age group and a city, and you say all of them are like this only kind of thing. So.
Absolutely. But again, I think that could be okay to just experiment, or just understand that okay, perhaps this would work out. It's a more would or wouldn't situation. But if you're imposing that no, this population likes this only, and this is the only thing that is going to work out to them because all of them have this behavior trait, or this is what their personality is, or all of them want instant gratification, I think that line gets a little blurry, and then that's more falling into just stereotyping them, which people would realize, especially if you're talking to Gen Z. They're very mindful about what is it that they're following, what is it, because they want to feel like a part, they want to feel like they belong to anything that they're doing. All these small businesses, all these small, smaller brands, newer brands, they're speaking to Gen Z in the language which is more about, come here, let's be a part, we understand where you're coming from, we understand the gaps that you are facing. But if they were to talk in a language which was, we understand that this is very difficult for you, and we understand that this is the kind of way you sort of act or react to things, or this is how badly you manage things, then nobody would, perhaps for a little time, but it's not going to last. Because people will pick up patterns, they will understand that this is not something that I'm liking.
Stereotyping in any way, it's like personally or in this kind of a professional space, it goes against you only because you don't...
It does go against you. I think for some brands it can work out if it's done subtly.
Like distance, you get distance by that people or the...
Absolutely, because then the value imposition is not matching, right? Like...
इनको like यही पसंद है या ये...
Correct, and especially if you're talking about Gen Z, it's not just about them being more mindful about what is it that they're consuming. It's also about them being more attentive. And as the days go by, our attention spans are getting very short. So the way the brand catches your attention and the clarity statement, the purpose statement, as much as clear and as much as direct it is, people resonate with it more. If to a Gen Z you go and explain for an hour that this is what our brand stands for.
Like my next question is kind of related to that, where the digital fatigue, you know, like people, you're having so much of the screen time is increasing and people have multiple devices. So in terms of standing out
Yeah.
for brands is becoming more challenging. So
It's
any
becoming more
kind
challenging,
of
absolutely.
some inputs or tips you have regarding that, like how do you kind of stand out?
I think just make it as relatable and as short as possible. Something that I just hear and I'm like, oh yeah, even I feel like that. Even if you see people creating posts on LinkedIn, like when I write on LinkedIn, I think the first line, the hook that we say, matters so much. Like if my first line of the post is a quote, or a quote, not like a wisdomous quote, but more like a quote that we often hear, or we often see, or we often say to people, that would instantly catch anybody's attention. Because then they're invested into, okay, I want to understand or I want to see what they've written, because I know for the fact that I also stand for the same thing. So any brand with the short-term attention, and us having so many digital devices around us, it's almost impossible to be away from social media and to be away from online marketing, right? But I think one major tip that I'd also like to mention is to make their content or to make their statement clear, purposeful, and something that shows that they're genuine or shows that they're authentic. Because the people who are getting more digitally fatigued are the people who are in their 20s and their 30s, mostly because they're on their devices constantly. They're seeing ads even while they're working, right? For them, it's very important. They're already loaded with information. Either because they're working, either because they're studying, either because there's something else that's happening. Absolutely, they're just on their social media watching shows, whatever. But for them to remember something is something that brands need to understand, that okay, this one line is something that they would remember. I think jingles also play a major role. Any brands that have had like very catchy jingles have played out really well. I've seen ads which
is kind of been lost now, kind of. I see which
absolutely,
we remember,
it's lost.
like kids who've grown up in 90s when there was only television.
Absolutely.
They still remember those, and the ones, obviously, the ones who really
exactly. And I think because we speak about this, nostalgia also plays such a big role. Like you will see brands bringing back, things that were trendy back in the 80s, back in the 90s. Like so many conversations in family and between relatives we see where they are like, oh, you're wearing such pants now, but we used to wear this like 30 years ago. Right? Just because the nostalgic element is coming in for them, also they're appreciative and accepting of the fact that okay, this is the new trend. So that also aligning it with the generation that perhaps is, especially for brands who sell to kids and teenagers, that alignment of nostalgia with okay, the parents are going to buy it for them. Will they buy it? And will the kid enjoy it? Or will the kid find it more new? Is something that needs to be played out really well. Like where the parents also relate that, oh yeah, this reminds me of when I was younger. Or this reminds me of a couple of years ago when this was trending. Or this reminds me of old media where actors and actresses used to wear such clothes. That instantly would attract them to that. And the kids would also find it new because for them it's like, oh, this is the trend. This is something that everybody is wearing. The factors also depend a lot. For kids it would be more peer related, that all my friends are wearing this, so I want to do. But for parents, for people who are buying it, that nostalgic element also helps a lot.
That's right. Like kind of, it's because also they are the TG, right? Like even if
absolutely
that way. Okay. In terms of like when you look at hyper-personalization in marketing, so how there's a thing of like when you say there's a discussion of ads that or a phone can hear you and accordingly those things come. So which I didn't kind of believe even though I was in marketing, but somewhere I cannot say I'm not some authority, but there is a thing where whatever you discuss then the
ads would start showing up. Exactly.
Show up like when you're talking about a trip to say Goa or something, and maybe
suddenly
you just mentioned it twice,
you've
never done a Google search. And how does something similar kind of pop up in terms of a make my trip ad?
I think again brands need to be really careful of are they invading? Is it invasion of privacy or is it making personalized for you? Hyper-personalization can be great if it's done in the right and genuine ways. But anywhere where I feel that okay, my privacy is
In
at a
such a
stake.
case, like technically it is invasion. I mean,
Absolutely.
if your phone is hearing.
Right, like if I'm just searching something and then I'm not even searching something
Not
like you
searching,
said,
yeah.
I'm just talking about it with my friends and suddenly my entire feed is changed. All the ads that are targeted ads is like a major chunk of marketing, right? But I think again the invasion thing is somewhere where people would lose trust. Also, just constantly, I mean, I know for a fact that a lot of ads who do a lot of marketing on social media, like every other ad that I'm seeing is theirs, would somewhere cause me a lot of annoyance. Like, why do I keep seeing this ad? I'd probably go and block it also if there's an option.
There's an option.
Right, but somewhere I would also remember that, at least the brand name or something that they're doing. But again, if it is being imposed on me so much, I would remember it, but
That's
in
it.
a more negative light. That ye to nahi chahiye. I'll buy anything but this brand
Yeah.
because I'm so tired. When
It's
you
like
spoke about digital fatigue.
very a salesperson who is kind of
Yeah,
very
it's like constantly you're just every time, every other minute you're knocking on my door and selling me this. And anytime, even when I need it, I'd probably say no to you. Right? So I think again it's a very thin line because it has to be subtle, but it has to be personalized. It cannot not be personalized. People, like I said, people want to belong, but they don't want to be sort of, put at a gunpoint and be like, listen to us. Because then that is something they'll not want to listen.
That's it.
That's human tendency.
So, Komal, in terms of psychology, a very important aspect is the sales aspect, where there is a one-on-one, selling. So,
Absolutely.
when we are looking at a digital world and you are using like messaging or maybe email and all, anything you want to mention within that? Because one observation of mine is, and which something which has changed over the years is something like when you have these DMs and in a professional setting, you're talking about your business or what service you're giving, just one message doesn't work, like it could be ignored. So, but you would have a perception that okay, if it's showing it's red, that means not interested, so I can take him out of my list, but which is not the case. Like
absolutely,
even I think some marketer had mentioned like it takes at least 5 messages to get some action going, something like that. So how do you kind of go around this, because there's a lot of confused understanding on this, like what is being pushy, what is not, what works.
I think cues are 100% important. I think why these brands also send personalized messages that, I mean, I'll often get a message like, hey Komal, here's an offer for you. Right? So they're speaking to me directly, they're speaking in second person.
Yeah. Also in the case I was talking more the sales people or coming on say LinkedIn or something. So basically it's like that is a part of their job. It's a B2B sales. They have to a decision maker go and get a meeting.
Absolutely. So I'll speak about the B2C and then I'll go on to the B2B as well. I think B2C, it's subtle cues. I'm keeping you reminded that I exist and this is a new offer that I have, or this is a new product that I'm launching. So I think that works out well. If I'm getting a lot of I think the frequency matters then. If I'm constantly getting messages like every single day, I'll want to block you. Even if it's a WhatsApp message or email, I'll probably unsubscribe. But if it's like once in a while where something that is sent to me is actually something different, something valuable, that oh hey, Diwali offer, something like that's when I'm actually looking for things like that also. Right? Perhaps I want to give something to somebody. Then that offer coming at that point is the right time. But it would be missed if the brand speaks everything. Like every other day I'm getting a message. That would be a little too much. So I think it becomes a little pushy when you're just trying to constantly show that hey, I'm here, hey, I'm here, hey, I'm here. Rather than just being like, hey, gentle reminder, I'm here if you need my product, or this is something that new that I have to offer you. So now I think that works out well. When it comes to B2B, I think the voice matters a lot. Who is it that is speaking to the other business? What is it that you're showing? It's a list of pros and cons, right? When I'm at a decision-making position, What are the pros that I'm getting out of this? What are the cons that I'm getting out of this?
Mm.
And when I, as a person, am asked to list down the pros and cons, even in my head,
Mm.
that is when I will remember the person who spoke to me, or that is when I will remember the voice who spoke to me, right? Because I could make a statement sound absolutely positive and beneficial for you, but I could also make it sound very negative for you. So I think then it really matters who is showing up for your brand, who is doing the pitch. If we see in sales, I think major
It's
tips.
like the relation building aspect where you
Absolutely.
outright go and just state about your company or product and ask for a
Absolutely.
meeting. It's not working. So I think like one strategy which I have also used is the you're showcasing a certain case. Like
Yeah.
so, I have worked for someone similar like you, and these
Absolutely.
are the results
I think numbers work out great.
I've got. That one kind of thing kind of works, and the second is that where I have studied a little bit about, and so I'm putting more effort. So it's not like I'm contacting 100 people, I'm contacting 20 people, but I'm putting those efforts. So somewhere like here's appreciating the effort also is somewhere I get a
Absolutely.
meeting, even though it not be the perfect match, but just for that effort maybe there is
Absolutely.
a
See, as long as you can make them remember you exist,
yeah.
you can leave that impression that, oh, hey, yeah, I spoke to this person. I think that works out well. And from an
Yeah.
individual level, if you were to ask me tips just from a psychological point of view as well, I think body language, the confidence that you're going with, power dressing is a major aspect. How are you dressing? How are you sitting in front of them? What is it that you're talking about and how are you talking? Smiling is a very subtle but very big aspect. Like there are so many researchers that say that you'd leave a more positive impression or you'll make the other person remember you better if you're just smiling more.
Yeah.
Which is honestly not very difficult to do. We just need to keep reminding ourselves that okay, I need to smile a little more.
Also appreciation, like say
Absolutely.
I noticed this, it should
Yeah.
like not like it sounds fake, but it's, and plus it's something very unique, something
Yeah.
you noted actually about them,
Absolutely.
which can this thing that you remember, like it's how you
Yeah.
make them feel, right?
Absolutely. So I think even when you talk like B2B, especially for people who are
This we are
leaders.
talking about the sales meetings. Right?
Absolutely. So people who are leaders,
Yeah.
people who are going to present, I think it's very important to sort of help them build these skills. And I think psychology plays a huge role. I mean, just psychoeducating them about these subtle cues, about their body language, about how is it that they should be conversing. What is the presence that they're building? Which is one major thing that we do in public speaking, right? Why would I listen to somebody talk for 10 minutes? What is it that is keeping me hooked? How is that person presenting? What is their body posture? Are they moving their hands a lot? Are they just like standing there and just talking to me? What are their expressions? Does it sound genuine? Like you said that sometimes it can sound fake. But I think that's the skill that needs to be developed, right? Whatever it is that I'm saying and however it is that I'm saying, it should be sounding genuine. It should be sounding like I'm passionate about it.
Yeah. Fake also when you use the same compliment on multiple.
Absolutely. If I just go to 10 businesses and I'm just saying the same things that wow, your business has built so much,
Yeah.
it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Again, coming back to the part where brands need to be very clear and specific. The
Yeah.
same thing stands here as well. If I'm complimenting somebody, I need to compliment something that is more tangible for
Yeah.
them. If I know
That's
for
why
a
I have to
fact,
put in more effort in my background.
absolutely, if I know for a fact that the person sitting in front of
Yeah.
me perhaps just won some award,
Yeah.
right? If I just go in and towards the end I just compliment them, oh hey, by the way, congratulations for that award you just won. They will remember
Or they
me.
posted something which you feel you connected something with, or it was
Absolutely.
valuable.
When you're pitching your business also, you can just be like, oh yeah, I know you speak about this a lot.
Yeah.
I know you've written about this in the latest newspaper article that you posted about. They would instantly be
And
like,
like
oh yeah, this
something
person
like a
has done
LinkedIn
their
is kind of
research.
visible to everyone, so
Absolutely.
it's easier to do a background.
It's easier to know their background, and plus, I think especially when you're going for offline meetings as well, it's not just about seeing their online presence. As soon as you walk into the office, just noticing little things. Perhaps what are the magazines that they're reading? What is that's displayed on their, what kind of room do they have? I think these cues really help. Just me picking these subtle cues that, oh, yeah, I just saw that you were just reading about this, or I saw a couple of magazines, is this something of your interest? Just being more open to conversation and building that rapport. Rapport building is a big thing that we learn in psychology, which is very important because, again, client relations, just giving them that comfortable space that, yeah, I'm here for you. Otherwise, why would a stranger just come and start talking, right? That rapport has to be built. So that I think is a very great skill that would help in sales, marketing, closing deals.
So Komal, if we talk about the corporate settings, like many youngsters, from college they get into that, and it's a completely different world, and you face challenges within that, and obviously not only it's also not survival, just it's thriving. How do you create that great impression and giving value and communicating, can become a leader in some sense where people are working under you. So few challenges that they face, and then maybe your response as a psychology level.
Absolutely. I think
so I'll give you some. So one is the you can say handling multiple departments. Like how do you when you're following up where it's somewhere maybe higher up than you, but you have to still make sure that they give that approval or something. Like how do you go about it where you want to be firm but you can't be rude, and how do you do it?
So I think what you're mentioning is being more assertive.
Yeah.
Right. There's one technique that we use a lot when it comes to psychology and conversations and organizations, called the burger technique. Right. And this works out extremely well when the leaders are talking to their subordinates. But it also really helps if a little modified when it comes to
affirmative. But the other way around, like
that's what I'm saying. That when you need to talk in an assertive way, it also really helps out. So the burger technique, the original one, is where you start with complimenting, or you start with acknowledging something positive that the person has done or the person has. Then you talk about, okay, this was a major fallout, or this is something that went wrong, and then you end it with a solution, or you end it with a statement where you say that I believe you can do this, right? But when it comes to a subordinate or somebody lower on the ladder, talking to a leader or talking to somebody, some manager that they need to get an approval from, I think starting off with the point that let's take an example. Let's say, suppose the manager.
One thing I feel they go wrong in is where you, it's like you're pointing out the mistake to him. And it hurts their ego, and plus they are in a powerful position.
Absolutely. So that's the example that I was coming to. Let's say, suppose the manager works in a certain way, and they've asked you to do a certain thing, and they know that this is the way that has worked out for them. But perhaps it's not working out for you, or perhaps you have a different way. Let's not say better, a different way to go about it, different approach to go about it. Now, how would you go to the manager and be like, I've done this, but I've done it in my way. Or I've done it in a different way than you would expect, because I don't think that your way was the most efficient one. Right now, this sounds very rude. It's like, who are you talking to? But just starting with acknowledging, again, coming back to the burger technique, just starting with acknowledging that, I really put my efforts. I really tried on the way that you had told me. This is something that I worked out as well. But while I was working on it, this is something that I found that could also work out. So I did try it, and I have the results if you'd just like to see them and give me your inputs. So just subtly telling them that it's not like I've not tried your way, or it's not like I don't appreciate what you've done or your position. I have absolute respect for your position, but this is just something that I found a different approach to do it, and perhaps this would actually improve, or this is a suggestion that I have. So using the words, the correct words, is something that really helps. Like me, just
soft words also.
Softer words, absolutely.
Some words they kind of, pinch you, which you feel.
See, if saying, this is human tendency.
This has been like, for example, you've repeated the same thing you did last time, something like that's a negative.
Absolutely, and this is a human tendency that if I just go up to anybody, it's not even about managerial relationships, it's about anybody. If I just go up to anybody, and be like, listen, I've done this, I don't know what you were doing, or I've just used something else, the defenses will go up. and
that's
their defenses will go up, and
Yeah.
they'll be like, I cannot listen to a word you're saying, this is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
Even though it actually might be beneficial to them.
Yeah.
Hence, starting with the fact that I acknowledge whatever knowledge you've given me or whatever information you've given me, whatever way it is that you wanted it to be done, and then just being ki, oh, I've also tried this. So then for them, one, it shows that you've taken more efforts than they expected you to. Because in their heads, I've told you this, you do this, and you come back to me. But you're showing that, okay, I've taken a step ahead, I've taken more efforts, and I've tried something different. That is one major point that reflects on your end better. Second, when you're starting with appreciating or acknowledging them, they will not get defensive. They'll be like, oh yeah, this person knows that I'm at a higher position than they are. And they've listened to me. It's not like, my knowledge has been put to waste. Because when their knowledge or whatever it is that they're sharing comes from an experience. So when that experience you're questioning, that listen, I don't think that's right, of course their ego will be hurt.
Yeah.
Right? They will be like, listen, I've had more experience than you. Right? It comes down to that. So when you're just starting with acknowledging and appreciating the fact that, okay, this is something that I absolutely understand and respect, but here's just another way. So that also makes them a little more comfortable and a little more alignment with what is it that you're going to say next. Third,
and also I think we have to be honest, like many people in terms of they will not be mindful. So if
absolutely
as a leader, you will have that ego wherein you will react in terms. So that is somewhere where you have to, you can't consider somebody at a power position having very evolved also. Like in terms
absolutely,
of, you can't assume that.
You can't assume that. That's the I think you can't assume that.
At the end of the day, it's a human being only who is really flawed and.
Absolutely. So the first two things are clear. The third thing is also when you're ending it with a more open-ended question, that if I could just get your feedback on this, or what do you feel about this? It's again the fact that you're respecting their position, that this is something that I've tried, but I'd really appreciate what it is that you have to say about this. Because at the end, you are the decision maker. So you let me know how you like this. Perhaps they'll actually be rather more interested and more open to taking your way. Because then all the boxes have been ticked. And like you said, I think it also depends on the leader's approach. It's not just about how you, from a perspective, are approaching the leader. But I think leaders also, a lot of these mental health programs, psychoeducation, it really helps the leaders also get in more tune with themselves. Because as a leader also you need to understand that while you're working for the company and while you're working for the brand, while you're working for the work, you're working with people. It's in no way that you are just doing something, and it's humans at the end of the day, right? Like you said, every human would be different. So just understand that you're working with humans and in line with them, I think really helps. Rather than, we see so many posts about being a boss and being a leader.
Yeah.
Right? A boss would just direct and be like, chalo, let's go. Or like, walk behind me. But a leader would be like, all of us have to do this. Let's work together or work with me. Rather than just imposing again. Imposition is one big thing that will put anybody's defenses up. It's not even about grown adults. If I tell a child that you have to do this only, the child also starts crying, right? And like throwing tantrums. Like, no, I don't want to do this. And they'll also be like, no, this is just not what I want to do. And they'll act in a more rebellious way. It's the same with adults, right? If I just tell somebody that you need to do this, I don't care about anything else, they will not do it. Even if they're in a position where they have to, because we spoke about job security, even if they're in a position that they have to, the output will not be as productive, not be as efficient, and they will not put their heart into it. That humanization will not be there. So I think as a leader also it's very important how the leader is approaching the team.
That's it.
Yeah.
So this is 10 minutes more. My position just went behind, I was just checking.
Yeah, no worries.
Then want to be in frame. So just two more things we'll be doing. One is corporate का तो I think it's done only on a personal level where your like emotions in terms of the time management, like how
Yeah.
do you segment. एक होता है ना, like you emotionally if you're all over the place
Yeah.
and that thing. So we'll cover certain within that, and then
Okay.
last then is just the conclusion.
Okay.
So Komal,
Yeah.
like when you're talking about this corporate thing, the leader, his emotional intelligence has to be kind of, do you feel
Absolutely.
the highest, like among
Yeah.
then it really works. They say na, it's the smartest in the room, hardest working. I think today the highest EQ is more
Absolutely.
important than those things.
Absolutely. So emotional intelligence, even when we study it,
It's
it's
EQ
EQ.
EQ.
Absolutely. Emotional quotient.
quotient, yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I didn't want to get that wrong.
No, that's emotional quotient. But when we speak about emotional intelligence in general, also it has a lot of parts to it. It's not just about me understanding my own emotions, which of course is a big part and super important to set the basis. Me being aware of my emotions, me knowing how to manage my emotions. But emotional intelligence goes beyond to the aspect of understanding others as well, being empathetic, being able to resonate with what somebody is saying, being aware of, okay, this is how this person perhaps is feeling and this is what could help. Emotional intelligence is 100%. And for leaders, there are so many courses coming up. Like I'm doing a course right now called Inspired Leadership, just to sort of tune in and understand the more deeper aspects of leadership as well. But emotional intelligence is something that I feel, if a leader has all the knowledge in the world, but they're not able to understand their emotions, it becomes very difficult. And just talking at an individual level also, if the leader is going through something in their personal life and they're not able to manage that, it will spill over your professional setup. It will impact how you are behaving with your employees. It will impact how you're behaving with the team, how you're approaching your work. And 100% it would also affect, see, a person would only, as an employee also, a person would only like to work or choose to work with somebody if they have the choice, if they have the privilege of choice, would only choose to work with a leader who understands them. Like if today I wake up and somebody in my family is not feeling well, if the leader cannot be empathetic of that, it's really bad. Like I wouldn't want to work with somebody who's like that, right? So that emotional understanding, the understanding that, okay, my leader.
As an employee, I think you kind of switch off also if there's been a constant, you observe that you are not being appreciated or listened to, like your point of view. So somewhere you, like those water cooler conversations happen that, I'm just for job, I'm kind of doing it, and it's like, because if I do anything with my heart or something, it's not being appreciated, so I just get by, whatever.
And just the fact that, see, why would somebody become a leader these days, right? Why are certain people promoted to being a leader even though they've perhaps been in the company for a shorter time than somebody else, perhaps have less experience in the technical aspects than somebody else? Is because they have these other things. Is because people management is such a big part of being a leader, right? Like more than the technical aspects, it's so much more about the people management.
I think it's the most difficult. Would you agree with it?
Absolutely.
Because that is why the highest level you reach, whatever CEO or whatever.
Absolutely, it's so difficult, and
that is the challenge. That is the why the big bucks.
And the challenge goes beyond just
yeah.
managing people. It also goes beyond understanding these people.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you do, you cannot please everybody.
Yeah.
Right? You might be working with 1,000 employees, even 100 employees, even 10 employees. But it's not for sure that every decision that you make or every approach that you take will be loved and liked by all the 10 employees or all the 100 employees or all the 1,000 employees.
Yeah.
There will always be a certain percentage which doesn't sit well.
Yeah.
But the point of being a better leader,
it's going against them in terms
absolutely. But the most important part of being a leader is making sure that everybody feels heard.
Yeah.
Because the decision can only be one. If I'm hearing 10 different ideas, I as a leader still need to choose one, right? But how I'm choosing that, how I'm approaching to tell the team that I've chosen that also makes a difference. I cannot just be like, oh, all the other ideas were really bad. That's why I'm just going to do this. Then nobody would share an idea next time, right? So I think being a leader takes a lot, 100%. But if you're able to build your emotional resilience, if you're able to build your emotional quotient, I think it gives you a very big
And
support.
I think that's the thing, in the higher position, it is, end of the day, it's managing the workflow. Like, that
Absolutely.
is like your job. It's not physically you're doing the task.
Yeah.
If you're a sales head, you're not
Yeah.
like doing the meetings. You
Correct.
are managing the guys doing the meetings and
Absolutely.
keeping them
It's more
motivated.
directive. It's more
Yeah.
just having a little more structure
Yeah.
to, okay, how do I manage these things? Because as a leader, as a manager, any high-end position that you have, there will be times when random things have come at random times, and you still need to manage those.
Yeah.
Despite having all the structure you can, despite having all the plans that you can, how ready are you to really face anything that comes at any moment in time? Like perhaps before a big meeting, something has gone wrong. Something has gone wrong during the meeting. How are you going to manage that?
Yeah.
And how are you going to support the people with you? Because if I just manage that, let's say suppose we're in a meeting and I'm the leader and my team is also sitting, but something has gone wrong or something has been missed. Perhaps maybe, some papers have been printed wrong. Something very simple also. If in front of the others, I am sort of discarding my team's efforts and I'm just being like, oh my god, I should have checked. Something like that will put the entire team down. They will not do it with their heart. The next time they'll just do it because they have to. Right? But if there I'm able to manage and act in a certain way where I know for a fact that I am a team. Regardless, I am leading them. The position might be different, but we're still in the same team. That really changes how the employees also see you. That changes how the team sees you. That makes them more open towards you as well. If something has gone wrong, the way you approach it, especially publicly, it's a very big way to just understand how your team is going to see you or how your team sees you. It's okay to be assertive as a leader. It's okay to be, decisive in terms of when decisions are hard. But the approach really matters. How are you talking to your team? Behind the doors and outside the doors makes a huge difference.
That's it. So, Komal, just some things about the personal aspect also of the working profession. So important. Also say that personal life also is, if it's not going well,
Absolutely.
so that affects your professional space. So few important things. One is like when you're looking at the time that you're consuming things, you're in front of a mobile, so the lines are a little bit blurring, as marketers also, we observe, if it's Instagram or you're observing some content or what work you're doing, it's everything is say on your laptop or something.
Correct.
So that, how do you manage that? Like, how do you segment your time better, wherein this is my time to do productive and I'm not like wasting my time in entertainment or social media?
So I feel when it comes to time management, personal story, I think, so I've been using Google Calendar for the last 3 years, and I don't think anything else has helped me manage my time as much as this has. Few reasons. One, I don't have to remember things. So my head is empty.
So is it like you're structuring your whole day out into like time periods?
Absolutely. So again, when you're setting up your calendar, there are multiple aspects to it. One, things that you can't get out of, the things that are compulsory. If I have a lecture, if I have to go to work, if I have a particular commitment, all that already is on my calendar. But what this visual helps you do is, it lets you see that, okay, what are the time slots that I have left? What is it that I'm actually doing in a week? Because a lot of times when, like you said...
So that you have to pre-plan. So I look at so how do you do it? Like, do you do it?
Yes. So coming to how I use it, like I was just mentioning that a lot of times, like you said, that things are happening in my personal life. How do I get out of those? So many adults we see, they're not connected to their hobbies. They're not doing anything apart from working. There's no time that they're spending with their friends. And you might
Work and then
absolutely,
scrolling
and you
seeing
might
Netflix.
think that, oh, I don't have time,
Yeah.
but all this time is going in scrolling, all this time
Yeah.
is going to waste. But how do I understand that? Put it on the calendar, put all the compulsory things that are actually, track your time for a week perhaps, that this is what I'm doing throughout the week. And then come down to the fact that, okay, what are the times that I've actually wasted? Like while I'm traveling, let's say, suppose I'm just on my phone watching reels. Maybe there's a book that I've wanted to read for so long. I'll realize that when I've put it on my calendar that I have time here. Like there's an entire 2-hour block that I'm not doing anything after work.
Yeah.
Perhaps listening to a podcast then, perhaps reading a book then, just calling up a friend and talking to the friend. Like you could do that in a train as well, right? You could do that in a bus, you could do that in a cab. And you've just caught up with a friend and you're instantly, as soon as you reach home, even though you're physically tired, you're feeling a little better because you've caught up with a long lost friend, you had a few laughs, right? So time management really helps when you put it on a calendar. How I also use it is, a lot of times I will pre-plan things that this is the time that I want to do this, but a lot of times I will also backtrack it. For example, yesterday, let's
A
say,
lot of things come up also, right? Like
absolutely. So I will backtrack them in terms of, let's say, suppose yesterday 4 to 5 I was supposed to complete a project, but I had to go out with my family and I couldn't come back by 4.
Yeah, it just came up maybe in the
Yeah,
morning
it just
that
came
you
up
did.
and I just had to go. So it's not like I will just feel very frustrated that why aren't things going to plan or something like
That's
that,
it.
right? Like this is
Like
how my
many people
calendar
who are
was supposed to look
perfectionists,
like.
They kind of get
That gets a little difficult,
Yeah.
and I'm not going to lie, when you start
Yeah.
using calendar, it is a little difficult.
Yeah.
But I backtrack it in terms of, okay, this is something that I couldn't do, I'll move it to a emptier slot and I'll actually put the block there that, okay, out with family, 2 to 6, something like that.
Okay.
So I know for a fact that that was not some time that I'd wasted. Right? That is something that I had to cater to. So I backtrack it in those ways. Today, if I open my calendar and I see some random date from 2022 also, I know for a fact what was I doing that day.
Okay.
And plus, I'll tell you something which most people overlook. Most of us are guilty of the fact that we are wasting time. We don't have time. We're not spending time doing things that we want to. Oh, I'm just doing this. I'm just occupied. But a lot of us also don't give ourselves credit for that. Like, if I look at my calendar from last week where I've backtracked everything, it looks exactly like how my day was. That okay, XYZ time to XYZ time I was here, then I was doing this, then I was doing this. When I look back at that, one, it helps me understand what are the parts of my life and how much time did I give them in 1 week. Did I spend any time with family in the last week? If not, let me do it this week. I'll schedule a time.
Okay.
Right? Second, it also helps me reflect that, okay, if I'm feeling a little tired this week, I understand because my last week was so heavy. I did so many things. Because we forget. If I were to ask you what were you doing last month, would you remember? You'll just remember the usual things. Oh, I went to work. I did this. I recorded a few podcasts. That's it. Do you remember how much time you've spent in doing what things? Why were you feeling so drained? Why were you feeling so disconnected? So many of us, once we start adulting, we feel like we're not spending any time with friends. We don't even remember the last time we met our friends. But when you're tracking your time and you're using a calendar, you remember. You know for a fact that, okay, I am actually not spending time with friends. Why am I feeling so low these days? Last 3 months I've had no social contact. All I'm doing is work. All I'm doing is other things. All I'm catering to is emergencies.
So, for the audience, like if you can segment it, like you take out time with friends.
Absolutely.
And, maybe I'm reading a book and all. How do you can you segment something that maybe this is what can be?
Absolutely. So how I use calendar.
It's like a human. These are the needs. This is something which
absolutely. These are the parts of your life that has to be right. Like I personally believe we often talk about work-life balance, but isn't work also a part of life? So how can you segment it 50-50? How can work be 50 and family, friends, myself, hobbies, personal projects be 50? Then I have to accommodate for these, right? Which sometimes is the use case for most of all of us because we are spending more hours working. We are spending more energy in working, which is okay. But then understanding how do we manage this 50% also becomes very important. This is mostly lost. How I put it on my calendar is I have multiple calendars. So in Google Calendar, there's an option where you can add calendars and you can give them different colors. So I have multiple calendars for sections of my life. So I'll have university, I'll have internships or work, I'll have family or friends, I'll have personal time, I'll have hobbies, I have other things like, okay, some emergency that has come up, something that I need to cater to. I have a calendar for work. These are more tasks that I need to do.
Yeah.
That okay, I need to go and buy something. I need to go for some paperwork. So that also takes time, right? We often overlook these aspects. But I have multiple calendars, and if you see my calendar, it's all colorful. So you will see that okay, these are the parts of my life that I've catered to. Any week that I see that, oh, this week I've done nothing apart from these two things, I'll make sure to add something of the other color of the other calendar in the next week.
And also you have to be honest to yourself. So
absolutely,
even though it would have been activity which was a complete waste, you could still journal.
Absolutely, you could still add it. Like there have been times where I binge watched a show.
Yeah.
And just because I was feeling a little guilty about the fact that there's a 6-hour empty block on my calendar, this is quite a while ago, like when I just started using calendar.
Yeah.
And right now I think after a time I don't feel as much as guilty because I realize that is the only time that I'm actually, watching something for entertainment or whatever. But there have been times where I've actually blocked it as an entertainment block.
Yeah.
Which makes me realize that okay, half a day I've spent working and half a day I've spent in entertainment. If that again, it also helps you pattern and recognize where are you spending more time, where are you wasting time. So I think that really helps. I did a workshop on Google Calendar with a college, I think last month. I have a segment that I created.
The time management space.
Correct. So I called it. So it's more like a metaphor.
Workshop.
Yeah, it's more like a metaphor that okay, this is how I called my week to be.
Okay.
Or this is how my last week was. So it's called it. But I take everybody through the entire basics of Google Calendar, but also more in terms of how does using a calendar make you feel? Because at the end of the day, it's very less about the technical aspects.
Yeah.
It's much more about when I use calendar, am I feeling good about it? Am I feeling less fatigued about it? Because if you tell me today that okay, for this podcast, for example, if you gave me a specific time and a date, I instantly blocked it on my calendar.
Yeah.
I don't have to remember these things. Because if I'm giving so much space in my head to remember the things, to remember what lectures I have when, to remember what commitments I have when, how will I think beyond that? Where is the space for myself?
You'll also get stressed.
I get stressed, I'll constantly be like, oh yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Oh no, I have this tomorrow. I wouldn't be able to remember. Use a calendar. I know so many people who use diaries who are more comfortable with, writing on paper than actually using a calendar. Calendar plus it's so collaborative. If we have a meeting online, I can just add a Google Meet there. I think it's much more, not just about using a calendar, with everything. Any role that I'm playing in an organization, any brand strategy that I'm creating, it really comes down to how is it making you feel?
That's it.
How are you making others feel?
I mean, if we are coming to, in terms of, a lot of like youngsters, they face a thing, and also in media side, like little bit you do a victimization, like you become a victim very quickly.
Yeah.
So how do you get around where you can't be oversensitive, but then there is a balance? You could also be a victim, right? Absolutely. So how do you find that balance? And it could be in so many aspects.
Yeah. So I think the entire victim mentality is something needs to be understood. As a concept first, and then understand that am I also doing this? Because sometimes, like you said,
making someone else a victim, or
no.
Or
am I being a victim, or like am I victimizing myself? Right. So first, just understanding what is this victim mentality as a concept, and then coming down to the fact that do I put myself in such positions? Very prominently, a lot of people talk negatively to themselves. There's a lot of negative self-talk, which will make you a victim. Second thing is having an external locus of control. An external locus of control, which would mean that for anything and everything that is happening, I would blame it on something that's outside, something that's not about me. Even if I've not studied for an exam, I'll just blame that, oh, the exam was so difficult. Oh, this was so bad. Maybe I'm not prepared for a presentation, or I'm not prepared for a meeting. I'll just be like, oh my god, why were they asking me so many questions?
Why did they call me? It's like summer.
Yeah, why did they call me today?
Yeah.
why did this meeting have to be there? I don't understand. So this is
So
having
much
a more
traffic, so
external
I can
locus of
reach in
control.
time. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then of course you would fall into that victim place, right? That
Yeah.
everything bad that is happening to me.
Yeah.
And then that entire circle of you constantly talk negatively to yourself. Oh, I'm only like this. Oh, this only happens to me.
Mm.
How come this doesn't happen to anybody else? Or why is it happening so much to me? Every other day it happens to me.
Mm.
I'm just constantly facing things. One thing ends, another thing starts.
Yeah.
So just changing your self-talk and just knowing for the fact that there are so many people in the world, you are not alone in anything.
Mm.
So even if you feel like you've put yourself in a
But
victim
like you
position.
feeling alone is also something which is a negative that happens.
Absolutely. So again, coming to the fact that feeling alone and being comfortable with it is very different from being lonely. If I'm feeling lonely, that's more negative.
No, alone in terms of like that ki I am very like unlucky or something, that
Yeah.
I'm only facing this and
Correct.
I'm alone in this. So
Yeah, so I think that's a bridge that a lot of mental health professionals are trying to, fill. That's a very big gap, that everyone needs to understand the fact that you will never be alone. People might have different experiences, but there will always be somebody who understands.
yeah.
There will always be somebody who's in the same boat as you are,
Yeah.
right? Because it's kind of sad also that,
Yeah.
there are so many people who feel alone, but just because they don't have the right support, just because they don't have anybody who's noticed that, just because they don't have anybody who they could have shared this with, are constantly in that phase every single day of their lives, but they're not willing to talk about it, but they're not feeling comfortable to talk about it, which again keeps you there, right?
Yeah.
Like if I'm just closing my eyes and I'm sitting in a room and I'm like, oh, it's a dark room, there's nobody else, so I can't see anybody, I'm alone. But if somebody just comes in and switches on the light, or if I just open my eyes and just try to look for somebody, there is somebody in the same room.
It's like you mustering the courage in a dark room, but still I want
Absolutely.
to
And
go. If you just stay frightened,
absolutely,
then,
and
yeah.
support can come in so many ways. Somebody, a friend who just comes and talks to you,
Yeah.
a leader, a co-worker who just comes and talks to you, and perhaps they're just switching on that light for you. That hey, what are you doing here alone?
Yeah.
Or, you're not alone.
That's
So I think it's something that of course needs to be spoken about. Exactly why it's so important to talk about mental health, right? It's so important to talk about emotions because that is something that needs to be understood and something that needs to be worked upon as well.
That's right. So even a psychologist, in terms of the thinking patterns
Yeah.
to improve them, that is something
Correct.
which
Absolutely. And psychologists would work in first understanding what are the patterns and then sort of helping you, supporting you to reframe those. Rather than just being like, no, let's remove this concept and let's put this. It's more like a process. That okay, this is the 100% now, let's make it 80. Let's introduce something.
Yeah.
Let's make it 70. Let's, improve on this.
Also, maybe psychologists need to address where it is they are playing a victim. Also, they have to make them aware. Like you can't
Absolutely.
being in pity mode all the time.
Absolutely. So just making the client aware of the fact that where does your locus of control lie? Is it internal? Is it external? And one major thing that I often speak about and write about as well is what are the things that are in your control and what are the things that are out of your control. For the things that are out of your control, what is it that you can do? The first thing, understand your emotions. Is the situation, is the thing making you feel positive, negative or neutral? It doesn't matter. If it's making you feel positive, it's great. Let it be. If it's making you feel negative or neutral, understand those emotions, allow them to be and then let them go. Understand how much is it affecting you. If it's something out of your control and you can't do anything about it, there's no point where we would say that don't feel negative or oh, why are you bothering? It's more about just understand the fact that it's not in your control. So don't blame yourself for it or don't crib about the fact that why am I not able to do anything about it? Perhaps because your focus is on doing something about the thing rather than doing something about how you are feeling about it. Right? So
I
things
think
that are out of your
like you try to
control.
avoid, and that is
Absolutely.
even more.
See, avoiding often does nothing because it still exists.
Yeah.
Right? I could not look at something for a very long time,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean that that thing is gone. So I need to sit with it, I need to make eye contact with it and be
Yeah.
like, listen, you're not doing
So
me anything.
it's like you face it for
Absolutely.
you, then kind of there's nothing.
Yeah, it's more freeing, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm carrying so much. So I think I've put it behind my back, so it's not in my life anymore, but that's just adding on more weight.
Yeah.
So just
That, like, the
rather
old
than
saying of-
bringing it in front of me and just being like, I don't want this,
That's right.
lightens the weight on my shoulders. And things that are in your control, of course, you can always act. Then the reflection comes down to what are you actually doing about it. If I'm constantly talking about the fact that, oh, my clothes are so bad, or oh, the food that I'm cooking is just not tasting good, that is something in my control. I can always get better clothes, or I can always change my wardrobe, or I can always learn to cook better, learn to cook something else. If that's not something that's possible, I can always have somebody else cook for me, or have somebody teach me what is it that I want to eat, what is it that I'm doing about it, is the question.
The thing about it, the facing the fear, like
Yeah.
an old saying, because I think avoidance, a lot of youngsters, because of that,
Absolutely.
then you don't feel, then addictions and all this happens, right? Like,
Absolutely.
because of that.
Exactly why the right support is required.
Yeah. You can't face it, so you want to then intoxicate yourself into.
Absolutely.
and that
Exactly
is
what the
how-
right support is required, the right
Yeah.
knowledge is required. If I know for the fact that this is something that I might
Hmm.
fall into doing, just knowing that would help
Yeah.
me prevent. And then getting the right support, learning better coping mechanisms
Yeah.
will help.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. I think the psychology will be a very
Yeah.
deep thing. A lot of things within
Absolutely.
interesting also. But I think in general, it's been a very interesting podcast even
Yeah.
for our audience, which is more into the marketing aspect of it. And obviously,
Absolutely.
what I mentioned in the starting, that how your audience kind of thinks and feels, and how you in terms of that impact that you can have with them, and act in a certain way. Like if you know how these behaviors work, you can kind of
Absolutely.
work on them better in basically influencing the decision. Now, a lot of people discuss like that it can be a negative thing
Yeah.
also, but end of the day, it's a job. Like as a marketer, if you are going to, like if somebody is working for McDonald's,
Absolutely.
he has to make sure that if this guy eats a lot of McDonald's, might not be the most
Absolutely.
healthy. That is the customer, how they balance their
Absolutely.
life of what they are consuming and all. So, but do you think also in that context, there's a small interesting thing where end of the day, it's the consumer, it's your responsibility. It's if a celebrity is endorsing a thing,
Yeah.
is it they to blame or who are marketing it? If
Yeah.
it's not like technically bad for health in a one-time consumption, like even you can argue that having these soft drinks, like
Yeah.
Pepsi and sugar, that's also harmful. If you, but
Correct.
then it's about the moderation. So, what is your opinion on that?
I think smart marketing happens a lot of times when the marketeers make the audience feel like they are choosing their brand,
Yeah.
but they know for the fact that they are not.
Mm.
Right? And when it comes to brand ambassadors and all of this, I think it's a subtle move that because you're associating a face,
Yeah.
and this face is something that a lot of people like, a lot of people trust.
Yeah.
That, oh, he's on this ad, I'd like to buy it. Oh, this is how he's talking about this ad. Or this is, oh, he drinks this, even I want to drink this.
Mm.
He uses this, even I want to use this. She uses this brand, I also want to use this.
Yeah.
It's a lot about association and
Is it like that aspirational thing that I want to be like, because I like things
yeah,
about
I
them,
think,
so I want to be like
I
them?
think it's just about the
So
fact
these are all
that
subconscious things.
absolutely. I
not
think
like
it's like you said, it's a lot about me just feeling like, okay, if I'm doing this, perhaps I'd be more like them. Perhaps I'd also be in the community that is being formed. That, oh, all the cool kids drink this, or oh, all the cool kids do this. I want to be a part of that community. Hence why also brands are shifting to the community aspect more, where all of the consumers, all of the customers feel like
Exactly.
one, feel like they're the same
But
level.
from the celebrity's point of view,
Yeah.
do you feel anything that where you have that access, I advertise
Absolutely.
so and so product.
Yeah.
For their aspect, do you think then in terms of what they're marketing that matters, or it's just a commercial thing that I am being able to pay that much money so I can?
I think it's both, but a little up and down when it comes to the demographic.
Yeah.
If you see the group of people that focuses and wants to hear the company's stories, wants to hear how is it that they're making you feel, the celebrity face would not matter as much. Like if you see a lot of campaigns which are very emotionally and which are very storytelling driven, they might actually not even have a face that everybody knows. It might be people from their community. It might be people from, being showcased as normal people, because that is something that people are connecting way more to these days. Because they already feel like, oh yeah, this is not something that I want to be, but this is something I already am. So this brand is for me. It's not something that I need to buy to be something that I'm not.
Yeah.
Or to be something that I'm not yet become. But for the brands, I think it's a cue to make you remember more that, oh yeah,
It's more immediate thing that the marketers think that will get a bit of more reach and staying power in terms of.
absolutely. So it's
But maybe
much
they have to
more
think
about,
beyond that also, because
It has
then
to
it's
be
like
thought
one
beyond
major
that.
celebrity is endorsing like 30 things,
yeah.
30 brands, and you are seeing that content
Yeah,
10
so
times a
then
day.
it could perhaps also, the focus shifts from the actual brand value
Yeah.
to the fact that, oh, this celebrity is also endorsing this. I would remember it as that. I would not remember it as, oh yeah, this is what their product is about. Oh yeah, this is what their company is about. So I think that makes a huge difference. I don't think just having a celebrity in your ad would sell your products alone. I'm not saying it wouldn't help.
Because now I think an evolution is kind of.
Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't help, but that alone does not. Because people already want to feel like they belong. They don't want to be like, oh yeah, do you want to be this? Then use this. They want to be like, oh, you're this, use this. If that makes sense.
That's right. Awesome. So I think it's been a great discussion on my marketing psychology. I think the first time in my channel I've kind of explored this with an aspiring psychologist also. It's, I think, very intriguing discussion, and
absolutely.
I really appreciate the time you took out and the great research that you did also, because it's something not directly what you are kind of.
Absolutely, it is something that I'm studying 100%. But yeah, one of the parts that I'm studying.
That's it. Awesome. So, just before wrapping up, so just going forward in terms of consumer behavior, anything you feel in the next 2-3 years, something in terms of, could call it a trend or kind of a way of working, what will be for the next?
I think brands and organizations and companies just need to realize the fact that the products, the services are being sold to humans, and there are always going to be individual differences. So accounting for those while making sure that your brand value, the values that you are standing for, the mission and vision statements that you have are so strong and so clear that the audience understands. The attention spans will keep getting shorter. So more the clarity, the better. The brain, as soon as it sees one sentence, it should understand. It should be able to connect to other things that, oh yeah, this brand talks about this, this is what it is, this is what it is. So just having more clear statements of purpose, having a little more light-hearted but impactful branding, having more
like the memes
ads, absolutely, having more ads that are, trend-setting, having more ads that are more authentic, like the Google campaign ads that I was talking about. All of them had no celebrities, no fancy anything. They were normal people talking normally in their daily lives, just showing that, okay, how Google could help them, how Google could connect people. I think that is something that absolutely works out for humans, because there's only one thing to remember at the end of the day, that you're working for people, you're working with people, you're working to provide something to the people.
Value to them.
Absolutely. So I think keeping that in mind would solve the purpose for everything, and coming up with the trends and for the next 2-3 years also. I think it's very important. Movement marketing is something that I'd learned about a couple of years ago. Making sure that your marketing is happening, but also jumping onto these little trends. Like we used to see a lot of Shadi.com and some other brands, billboards talking to each other, like having a more conversational advertisement. These are the things that people remember. These are the things that people will post about. These are the things that people will talk about. So I think the brands should focus on, one, that they're working with people, they're working with humans. So understanding human behavior is 100% important. And second, how do you make yourself remember? Why will people remember you? How will people remember you? Is something that needs to be established at the very start, and then you just work from that point. That, okay, this is what it is, and then I can work in like several directions from this.
Okay, awesome. Thanks a lot.
Of course.
Komal. And I really enjoyed this particular discussion.
Me too.
Awesome. And to the audience, the Emma podcast is on YouTube as Modern Intelligence, so you can check out all our various episodes. We are on all the major podcast networks, so please check us out. And if you want to collab with me, please you can approach me on LinkedIn, and we can work out some interesting content. So until the next time, I'll see you all. Take care.